Welcome to another episode of Wall Street Diaries, a podcast about extraordinary individuals who launch their careers on Wall Street and use that experience as a springboard to build world-class careers. We bring you the stories of people who turned that foundation into something remarkable. Today's guest is Eugene, head of sales operations at Miro, the collaborative whiteboarding tool trusted by virtually every Fortune 100 company. And before helping scale software unicorns like Miro, Asana, Slack, and SurveyMonkey to hundreds of millions, and in some cases, billions in revenue, Eugene launched his career at Morgan Stanley's technology investment banking group and later joined Code Advisors, where he worked on over $1 billion in M&A for high-growth pre-IPO companies in the internet and digital media sectors. Since then, he's made a seamless transition from banking to operating roles, leading revenue strategy, go-to-market execution, and sales operations at some of the most iconic software companies in the world. During Eugene's time at Slack, the company scaled from a fast-growing startup into an enterprise powerhouse, eventually culminating in a $27.7 billion acquisition by Salesforce in 2021, one of the largest software deals in history. So if you've ever wondered how investment banking can set you up for success in the tech world, or what it's really like to help build some of the most powerful sales engines in Silicon Valley, Eugene's story is one you won't want to miss. With that said, welcome to the show, my friend. It has been a long time since we've caught up, and I'm grateful that you agreed to take time out of your busy schedule today to talk to us.
Absolutely. Sam, great to see you. It's been a minute since we connected with our banking background together, but yeah, happy to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. And, just to dive right into the questions, because I know, you're obviously super busy. What made you want to start your career in banking, and why Morgan Stanley's tech group, I guess?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, gosh, it's been a minute since I've thought about this. I went to a college that wasn't necessarily a feeder school for investment banking, but it was a good school. And it had a great alumni network.
Yeah.
The school is called Williams, a small liberal arts place, like 2,000 students.
Yep.
And I had a bit of a familiarity with investment banking from my brother. He and I have a 12-year age gap. He's older, but he did start his career in investment banking. And so I remember, he was 18, I guess, or he was probably 21. I was 9 years old or whatever. I remember hearing from him that he was starting this fancy job and he was taking these black cars, to and from work, and he had a meal allowance, et cetera. So I just remember investment banking being really glorified in a very shallow way because, I was not even 10 years old. And hearing that from him, that kind of stuck with me. And then when I was a junior, I guess I was looking for an internship, and I was reaching out to the alumni community at Williams. That was kind of like a really powerful asset of that school because it is so small, and alumni are rather responsive. And so I remember reaching out to the Morgan Stanley tech group, not even really knowing if it's investment banking or not. It could have been IT for all I knew, because of like the business title of the individual was a little bit ambiguous. But I reached out to somebody that, Sam, you will likely remember, is Nick Osborne. And he is, Williams grad, and he is really well respected within the Morgan Stanley tech group. And so I remember he said, he replied, we arranged a meeting. And this was actually in the summer of my sophomore year. So way before, I think, traditional recruiting for these internships starts. And so I show up. He asked me some questions. I meet a few other people in the group, in the tech group. And, I was studying economics at the time. They asked me some questions on like tariffs or something that might be relevant to today's climate. But I remember I was very relevant to what I was studying. So it was easy for me to answer, but it was not there was zero finance questions because I had zero background in it. You don't study that in liberal arts.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, long story short, like I secured the internship, that following summer of my junior year. I did the 10-week program or however long it is. And, had a good experience, developed some good relationships, saw the high impact of the work. And it was 2008. Obviously, like having a job lined up was really valuable at the time. And so I accepted the offer. I joined, and I did the 2 years, and then I signed up for 2 more as an associate at another firm, right?
Yeah.
I did 2 years at Morgan Stanley, did 2 years with Code Advisors. We can talk more about that in a bit. But yeah, that was kind of my entry into the space, really through my brother and through the alumni community of my college.
Yeah. So are you saying that Morgan Stanley was, I don't know if it was the only bank or just one of the very few banks that you talked to, and it just you happened to encounter Nick and that's how you ended up there? Or did you go through like the full recruiting process like most people were there, applying to all the banks and trying to network everywhere? Like, what was your experience like, I guess?
I essentially was able to bypass that process. And the reason for that is because I reached out to Nick my sophomore summer. I actually remember this quite well. When I went to the Morgan Stanley offices, it was like August of that sophomore summer. And
Mm,
I had a flight to catch like within 2 or 3 days because I was going to study abroad in Spain, Barcelona.
mm,
And so I was like top of the world, like, middle of my college career, about to set across the ocean to have this amazing study abroad experience. I
yeah,
just did some internship that was not in banking, but it was not nothing. And it was kind of like I had no expectations. Either something comes of this or maybe it doesn't, and there will be plenty of time to recruit. But I was excited about it, obviously, because I knew I was going to be away for 4 months studying abroad. And I really didn't want to kind of like have to worry about recruiting while being, in a different time zone, et cetera.
yeah,
And so because it kind of worked out, I was really fortunate and kind of was able to fast track the process. I did reach out to some other alumni at other banks, and I think Nick was just the most responsive one. I maybe had one other conversation.
yeah,
So definitely there was a volume aspect to it. It wasn't kind of like I shot a dart and it somehow struck the bullseye.
yeah.
But one of those darts did, as I mentioned.
Yeah, that's crazy. What you said just reminded me of how back in our days, because we graduated the same year, obviously. You starting your networking process in the summer after sophomore year was considered early, right? So like you basically got in before they even kicked off the process. Whereas like now the recruiting process for the junior summer internship starts. I don't know if you know this. Obviously, I live this every day, but it's moved up. It continues to move up earlier every year, and so now we're at the point where applications open during like the first semester of sophomore year. So to do what you did, you would basically probably have to reach out as like a freshman or something, which is just crazy because most freshmen, they just got to college, they don't even know what they want to do, right? And so yeah, I mean, I feel like what we had to do back then was like a lot more reasonable, if anything.
Yeah.
And Nick, yeah, I remember him. I worked on a deal with him, and obviously, I guess by the time you reached out to him, he was already really senior. He was like a managing director, and I think that also just goes to show like the power of effective networking. Like if you can get in touch with the right alum from your school who happens to be, very influential at the place that they're at, anything is possible, right? And I think Nick also later, I'm not sure. This might have been after you and I both left MS, but he left and started his own firm, right?
Hmm.
DDO,
Yep.
which is also like a tech boutique, pretty similar to Code Advisors, which you went to. If I remember correctly, I think when you left MS to go to Code, they were like just starting out, if I recall. Like you were one of their first employees, if I'm not mistaken, right?